This is Bokhara couching, which is a self-couching technique. It's pretty simple. We're going to start over on the left side of this little 1-inch square. And I'm going to take my lathe thread, the thread I'm working with actually, over to the right side and take my needle down and bring it up on my couching line right there. The neat thing about Bokhara couching is that it forms a secondary pattern on top of the lathe threads using the couching stitches. So I'm taking a little diagonal stitch here that follows the direction of my couching lines. Those are the diagonal lines that I've marked inside the square. And just a little stitch over that to hold the thread down. And coming up again on the next couching line, taking a little diagonal stitch and coming up on the right side of the design. Or sorry, that's the other right, the left side of the design. And now I'm going to take the thread back over to the right, and you want to keep your lathe threads close to each other. There shouldn't be any fabric showing between the stitches. So you're going to take that down. Going to come up on your couching line. Pull your thread through. And go back down over the top of the thread. Come up on your next diagonal couching line there. Take a little stitch over the top of your lathe thread. And come up on the left side of your design again. Bokhara couching is a little bit more formal, I'd say, than Romanian couching, because the stitches are smaller, for one thing, the couching stitches, and it does form a pattern in or on top of your filled area. It can be used to fill small spaces, medium spaces. You can even use it to fill larger spaces. But it takes, if you're using it on larger spaces, it's going to take quite a bit of thread. So I'm crossing over that lathe thread again and coming up on my couching line, pulling through. And again, you want those threads to be close together. And taking a little stitch over. And actually here, I'm going to start that next diagonal line, so I don't want to come up right on the edge. I want to come up a little bit before that, so I can take one more little couching stitch. So I can begin that third diagonal line there. Another neat thing about Bokhara couching is that you can, if you're going to change the color of your lathe thread or the color of your fill, you can continue with the same couching pattern so that your color changes, but that pattern, that couching pattern, runs through the whole design. And that's kind of neat. It's a fast stitch to work. Of course, you can't really tell that in this video, but it is. You can work it one of two ways. You can do the sewing method, which is how I started, or right here I'm stabbing and pulling the thread under. Then I'll come up with the needle, pull the thread all the way through, stick the needle back down, pull it all the way through. Either way is pretty quick. The sewing method is probably the fastest, but if you're a two-handed stitcher, the stab method can also be very quick. It also depends on what kind of frame you've got your work set up on. When you're working a couching technique like this, you should have your fabric set up on a frame or in a hoop to keep the tension on your fabric. And you can see here that the diagonals are starting to stick out a bit. You can see the diagonal pattern, the couching pattern. As far as tension goes on your couching stitches, you don't want to pull them so tight that your laid thread bunches or puckers. Here you can kind of see a wave in the in the thread, but it's all right. And now I've moved up a bit on the design, and you can see that I'm adding another couching line over there on the diagonal on the left, and I finished the one over on the right. And you can also see that I'm running out of thread. So this is going to be the last line, and what I'll show you is how to end your thread. But again, just a little diagonal couching stitch there. And you can really see the diagonal pattern too here. So take that down. There we go. We're going to end that thread. And so I'm turning my work over, just rotating the hoop there, or the frame. And I'm going to run my threads underneath the stitches that are there. You can see that it creates a solid fill, a pretty solid fill on the back as well. The only voided space is where the little couching stitches are. And I'm just going to run my needle underneath the stitches, up the next line. And you could snip it there, but I'll go down the next line as well. And grab your scissors. And snip it right next to the work. And turn the thing over. And there it is. It's a simple stitch that makes a nice fill, and you can do fun patterns.